Are we recording? We are.
Yeah.
This can be the intro.
All of the intros are us trying to figure out what we're doing.
Yeah, basically. So, what should we call our book club where we also make cocktails?
How about Books on the Rocks?
What?
I just thought of it.
That's so original. Yeah, we went through about 30 names, but a lot of them were taken.
Yes. So welcome back to our McWorld, or to our McWorld, to our newest segment, Books on the Rocks, that we just officially named.
Yes, just now.
Yeah, this will be our new segment where we're going to talk about, it's going to be our own personal book club. So we're going to pick a book or a book series that we like, and we're going to talk about it. And also, we're going to drink some cocktails. Cheers.
Clink.
We'll tell you about our cocktails in a little bit.
So, we thought we would start off. Look, I have a different pen today.
Oh.
It's flamingos.
Indeed. Flamingo pen coming in.
I don't know why I always have to be holding a pen. I guess I have nervous energy. I'm not even a smoker or anything to where I
have to.
Anyway.
Hands when I talk, I'm like.
Okay. So, back to the show. Books on the Rocks. We thought we would do sort of a general summary of the series or the book that we're talking about. And then, in this case, after that, we will introduce our cocktails. And then we're going to dive deeper in because we want there to be a hard break for the people that haven't read the book or the series so they can quit listening or listen ahead for spoilers. But then the rest of it will be for people that have kind of already done it or don't care.
Yes.
I guess they care about us, but maybe they don't care about the book or they don't care enough to read it.
So I just want to hear about it.
Yeah.
I read it. For our opinion, so they'll be biased when they read it. Kind of like you might have been when you read it.
Yeah, probably so. So today we're going to talk about the Body Movers series by Stephanie Bond.
I sort of discovered this series by accident. We have a tendency to go to Goodwill and buy random books that we don't need, but have a whole bookshelf full. And one of the books I happen to pick up because even though you're not supposed to, I do judge a book by its cover. So when I'm looking at Goodwill or anywhere, if I look for authors I know, but otherwise I look for pretty book covers. And if it intrigues me, I pick it up and read about it and see if I want to buy the book. So that's what happened here. I bought this random book, didn't know it was part of a series. And then one day I picked it up off my bookshelf to read it, got about 3/4 of the way through, and I thought, this is not going to be wrapped up. And I Googled it, and at the time there were, I think, 6 or 7 books out. And I thought, this was a commitment I was not prepared for. But I read them all fairly quickly, and then I got Courtney to read them as well.
Yeah.
That's how it started.
Yeah. And then I kind of jumped on board, and I started reading them too, and they are really good books. Overall, I think they have, obviously there has to be conflict for any book to be good, because who's just going to sit and read a book where people go about their everyday lives? Nobody.
That's boring.
Yeah. That wouldn't even make it as a biography. They don't write biographies about people that people don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it has somewhat relatable characters in that the characters, albeit they're all, pretty glamorous, good-looking type people, but they have flawed lives and troubled histories and those sorts of things. But I feel like too that the books, the reason I like them is because I think they're a good mix of comedy, mystery, romance, all rolled into one.
Yes. So just kind of a brief overview with not too many spoilers. Some of the stuff that you find out really quick, or it's like on the back of the book. But the series follows a character named Carlotta and her brother Wesley. And so you follow each one of them and what they're doing. But it starts off, their parents, they used to be rich, and their parents or their dad got arrested for some kind of financial crime. And then he and their mom went on the run and left them alone. And I think Carlotta was like 18, 19, and Wesley was just a kid. He was 9 or 10. So the book starts off 10 years after that. So she's been raising her brother all this time. And at the very beginning, Wesley gets arrested for trying to hack into the county, some kind of computer system, as I think he's trying to find out about their parents. And so that's when you start meeting the other characters. So you first meet Detective Jack Terry, who is the detective who arrests Wesley. And then you meet, as part of his probation, he has to get a job. So he gets a job as a body mover. And there you meet his boss, who is Dr. Cooper Kraft, who used to be the medical examiner. Used to be. You find out why he's not anymore at some point. But he's kind of Wesley's boss, moving the body. So they basically go either to crime scenes, or they go just to people's houses if they die at home, and take the body back to the morgue. And then you also meet Carlotta's ex, Peter. And they were together when they were teenagers. They were first loves. But after her parents left, they kind of fell out and hadn't seen each other much in 10 years. And then you also have Carlotta's best friend, Hannah, who is like a goth chick who is crazy and whatever. But so all together, the books are basically about Carlotta and Hannah actually end up helping move bodies too, because, you know, that's a fun thing to do. But it kind of just follows them, and each of the books has a little bit of a mystery. Some of them it kind of spans books. And Carlotta's kind of ends up in a love square with the three men, and Wesley gets into stuff, and so it just kind of goes along all throughout. There's 11 books so far. They're still not over, but I guess that's kind of anything to add for the kind of just an overview of.
No, I think that's a pretty good summary. I do like when we were talking about the love square. You know, obviously there's a little bit of action to be had throughout the books, and I feel like, though, that these books do a good job of giving you enough romance and action and, you know, I don't know a good word for it, but people, they're grown people. They're grown people. But it's not trashy, and it's not all they think about all the time, and the whole book, every other page is some kind of scene where people are getting it on or making out. And then two, also, people are not so doe-eyed and just fawning all over each other the whole time either, which both of us kind of find both of those scenarios annoying. So, yeah, especially Mallory.
Yeah. I can't stand when a character is super obsessed with another character, or really in real life either. It drives me crazy. I'm like, people should have I mean, you know, you could be in love with somebody, but you don't need to be like stuck up their butt all the time.
Yeah.
It drives me crazy, but these aren't like that. None of the characters are really like, I mean,
well,
none of the characters are like that, but the main character, Carlotta, she's not really like that. She's not super obsessed with anybody, or to where there's not really an obvious choice. You know, sometimes you have books where you're sure, obviously, this is going to be the person, or probably this is kind of like, you really don't know. It kind of changes as you go along, where you're not really sure what, which is good. I kind of like that in a way. Of course, you know, when I don't get my way, I don't like it, but but I do like that it's not just one, she's not just, but I still really am just so in love with so and so, even though I'm dating somebody else, you know.
Yeah. So I think that's pretty much a good summary and a good why we like the books. So now we're going to move into a little bit deeper look at the books. And so if you have not read the books and are very concerned about spoilers or don't care what our opinions are about these characters, now would be the time to like and subscribe below, tell your friends about our show, and come back to the next episode some other time. Otherwise, now, 3, 2, 1, go. We're going to talk about people that we love and people that we don't love. And first, though, we're going to introduce our cocktails. So, my cocktail, very simplistic, is just, it's just coffee with whiskey in it. It does have sweetener in it because I have to have sweet stuff. But I made this in honor of Detective Jack Terry, who's easily mine and Mallory's favorite character of the books, I would say. Mm-hmm. And the reason that I made this drink in particular is because coffee is strong, like Jack. Also, whiskey is strong and somewhat abrasive, like Jack. But really, it's a simple drink for ordinary folks. It wakes you up. It keeps you going. You know, no frills. It's just good, and that's it. And that's Jack.
Yep. My cocktail, I kind of is something I made up based on what I have here because I really wasn't super prepared. In the future, I'm going to plan my cocktails ahead. Today we planned it a couple hours in ahead, and so I was like, what is in my fridge? So I decided, because I wanted something, so my cocktail is going to represent Carlotta, the main character. And so I thought we need something fashionable and fruity and, you know, girly, because she's super into fashion, way more into fashion than I've ever been in my life. But also, I'd say pretty girly person, you know. So I did a Moscato margarita, watermelon margarita. So I've got some Moscato. I had some watermelon margarita mix that I already had tequila in it. So I put that in here. I got some little bit of lime juice. And one of the recipes I saw called for some kind of orange, I can't remember now. It was something orangey, and I had some blood orange tonic water. So I put that in here to give it a little bit of that. So it's actually pretty good. It tastes a lot like the watermelon, but I like it. And I think this would be a cocktail that she would enjoy probably. Although she does go hang out at a cigar bar and drink hard liquor sometimes.
Yeah, but it's the spirit of the drink.
Spirit of the drink.
Also, neither of our drinks are on the rocks, but just pretend.
Yeah.
It's the spirit of the title.
I came really close to making a frozen margarita, but I didn't have enough ice. So I made a not frozen, also not. I guess I could have just put ice in it, but for on the rocks. Man. Too late.
Well, also, we didn't know we were going to call it On the Rocks until we started the episode, so.
True story. Next time.
Yeah. So, I guess now we'll kind of tell you, maybe, I don't know if we want to really, tell a little bit about every character, but I don't know. Should we talk about each character and then kind of jump to the love square? Yeah. Or should we just talk about the love square? Because that's our main concern of the books, honestly. And I know it's 2020 and we should be more concerned about other things. But let me just say this, okay? I'm all about some romance. And if I can't ship somebody, I'm probably not going to stay interested in your endeavor. That being said, these books have a strong female lead who is also weak. Because guess what? Women are not strong all the time.
Mm.
I saw a whole post this weekend on Instagram from Lana Del Rey where she was kind of saying that same thing. Like, just because you exhibit weakness sometimes doesn't mean you're not a strong female. And I thought, yes, girl, tell it.
I like having these characters who can show, I'm a strong woman, but that doesn't mean that I can't show emotion, or I can't,
I can't love somebody and I can't be sad if somebody breaks my heart.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times it's, being some kind of strong female means that you don't need a man and all this stuff. And while that's true, and you should definitely be able to stand on your own 2 feet, regardless of your situation, that doesn't mean that you're not going to be hurt if you have something and you lose it. That's human nature. And it's kind of dumb, honestly, in my opinion, to expect people to just move on about their lives.
Yeah. And in most situations, it's not like you need a man, but you want one.
Yeah.
It's nice to have somebody around,
Everybody wants to be loved.
Yeah.
So, what? So anyway, but I guess that's why we like Carlotta so much and why we keep reading these books, because she's a relatable heroine from that perspective, I guess. And she does, of course, get into mischief, because obviously if there is a female protagonist that is not in law enforcement in a mystery book, they will be getting into mischief.
Oh, yeah.
That's just the nature of the game.
Yeah. That's every series that we've ever watched or read. I mean, you ever watch Hallmark movies and mysteries? That's every one of them.
Yeah.
Some woman is getting involved in police work who shouldn't be, but is.
Yeah. But also, she normally solves the mystery, so.
Yeah, right? And I think I like it a lot because growing up, that's what I always wanted to do. I thought, I'm going to be a detective, and I love Nancy Drew and Harriet the Spy, and I thought, that's what I want to do. And I think so that's why I like all these kinds of series? Because they're kind of getting into stuff, but I'm thinking, that would be such a cool thing, but like in real life, I'd be afraid to do that, because you might actually get in trouble and arrested for meddling, unlike in fictional works where you could get away with it.
Yeah. Well, I think too, obviously, the thing about Carlotta is that she had to take on a role. She had to become a parent to Wesley as a kid herself, and she never got to live out her dreams really until, I don't know when, book 11 / Factory Girl. So Stephanie Bond also does these series, and we'll probably talk about them in another vlog, I guess. But they have indirect tie-ins to the Body Mover series, and Carlotta happens to be in one called Factory Girl, which evidently is set sometime in the future. We now know, because in Factory Girl, Carlotta is a fashion blogger, and she's very successful. Mm-hmm. And she decides to pursue that career sort of in book 11. So, Factory. What?
I said, thanks to Jack.
Yeah. So, that's another reason why I really like Carlotta, because she, a lot of people are just follow your dreams and follow your passions. And honestly, that's just not realistic for most people for at least part of their life. I mean, if you can manage to support your family and follow your passion, then that is exactly what you should be doing. But a lot of people, they don't get that option. It's either follow your passion or support your family. and Carlotta had to support her family. She had to get Wesley through school and put food on the table, and so she's just now following her passion. She's going for the gold, but all of that made her awesome, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I think even though I can't relate to a lot of the fashion stuff, I still find the character, and especially when we're starting off, and even though I haven't been in those shoes as far as having to support anybody or kind of really struggling to get by and pay bills and try to live some kind of life, I still think it's a very relatable situation to be in, to where you're just trying to figure out what to do, but also still get to do the things that you kind of want to do. And then also, bless her heart, bad stuff happens to her all the time.
Truth.
And she had, in one instance, she had her identity stolen. It's like that, which actually book 2 is my favorite book of the whole series. But that's the book where it was like everything, it seemed like, was piling up, and she just didn't know what to do. And the girl stole her identity and jumped off a bridge and committed suicide. And everybody thought it was her. And she was kind of, oh my gosh, everybody honestly thought that I would do that because my life sucks. And so I think that part where she goes through all this normal stuff, like she had a bunch of credit card debt, and so she didn't even realize her identity was stolen because she had this other debt and this other problem. And so all that stuff, I think, is really relatable for a lot of people, especially in their 20s who may have gotten some credit card debt, or in their early 30s. Don't know who do that.
Yeah, no, but I think that I also think that I just kind of want to briefly say that both, just to touch on the other characters briefly, Wesley and Randolph are both stupid.
Yes. I get so annoyed at Wesley, and I know he's supposed to be, he's 19, 20 years old, but he's got, and I get it. His parents left him, but his sister, I think, what annoys me is she was trying her best, and it's like it just wasn't enough for him, and he just would act out and do all the stuff like getting arrested and really just causing her a lot more trouble when she was trying to do everything she could for him. And then he keeps, and I guess maybe I know some people who have in real life who've done things that I don't understand too. And that's why another reason his character gets on my nerves so bad, and everything. And even now, even to this very last book, it's like all the using the drugs and, getting involved and trying to do this. And he's going to take off his ankle monitor and fly to Europe. And he keeps, of course, now his dad's gotten him, trying to get him into poker. And he's just doing all this stuff. And I just thought, what is wrong with you? And then people try to help him. And he's like, screw you. I'm just.
Yeah.
He's a little better, but I still.
Yeah.
Like,
we know addiction is a disease, and that's hard to overcome for sure. But at the same time, I feel like it's not just that. Wesley makes all sorts of decisions that aren't even related to being an addict, that are just the total wrong decisions. And you've got your sister who's given up her whole life, really her whole life for you. And, early on, it was just so ungrateful to me to just basically throw it all away, to just say, forget it. I don't care that you did all this stuff for me. I'm just going to keep acting a fool for no reason. And, and then too, I guess, because the books keep putting good role models in his life, like Mouse. Mouse is a great role model for Wesley.
I do like Mouse.
Yeah, Mouse is definitely the best father that Wesley ever had, for sure. But even though Mouse is a criminal and a sort of terrible person, he does have his own code of the way that you should live your life and the people you should take care of, and he does actually try to put Wesley on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Not that Wesley goes on the right path, but he keeps trying. What Mouse keeps trying. And then too, honestly, Cooper. I mean, where the teams are concerned, we are not Team Cooper, but as far as Wesley is concerned, Cooper is the pinnacle role model. He is a recovering addict who's made good on his life. He's fallen off the wagon. He's got back on the wagon. And he understands that you should take care of the people that take care of you.
Yeah. And I feel like even though, he's got them, he's got his sister, that he still keeps making these decisions. And I thought, you're only 19 or 20. Where are you going from here? I worry. He's not real, but I worry about him.
Okay, so now the very most important thing that modern feminists like to talk about: which man should she be with? Just kidding. But seriously, obviously she should be with Jack.
Indeed. Well, so we're in a Body Movers fan group on Facebook. And I see all the time people posting, and sometimes it's people posting who haven't caught up. And so it kind of, I always am just sitting there, smiling or being like, oh, I don't know. Because the other day I saw a girl that said she really liked Peter. She was like, I really like Peter. And first of all, I thought, listen, nobody really likes Peter.
No. To me, Peter, though he was in the love square, he was never an end game option for me.
No, because in the first book, she seemed like she still had a thing. And maybe it was because, he's her first love and he came back into her life. And some of those old feelings kind of came back a little bit. But once she spent time with him, even when she moved in with him, they couldn't ever hardly be together. And I just always thought, even when, when they went to Vegas, they finally did sleep together for some unknown reason. I still do not understand why she slept with him. It made absolutely no sense to me. But when he proposed, it's like she never wanted, I don't know, it just never seemed like she was like, oh yeah, I'll be with Peter, this is fine. But she never seemed like she was in love with him anymore. Not at all to me. It was kind of like he was the safety net, like he's the backup, because he was so in love with her. He was kind of one of those characters that gets a little bit on my nerves because he's a little bit too invested, and he's all the time, which is not a bad thing for somebody to compliment you and tell you how much they love you. But at some point, it's a little bit annoying, especially when they don't say it back. And it's obvious that she cared about him. I mean, obviously we're spoilers to book 11, but because when he died, she was very upset. And understandably, but I think, it's kind of like, I think her and Jack were talking about in book 10 is like him and Liz. It's like you don't love this person, but you still feel responsible for them. You still care about them, so you feel like you have to help them. And I think that's how she kind of was with him towards the end. She just felt like she needed to be there for him, even though she didn't want to be with him. So he was never, to me, he was just kind of an annoyance that kept popping up. But I never thought that he was going to be the one to sink my ship.
No. And I guess, obviously, so we're Team Jack, and I'll talk about Cooper because I think I can do it with less vehemence in my voice than Mallory, and because I may be slightly more objective, but just kidding. We both really like Cooper, okay? Don't get it twisted. As a person, as a friend. Okay?
Yeah.
There's a zone for Carlotta, and Cooper belongs firmly in it. And I think that, so right now, Cooper is winning the battle and sinking our battleship. And so I think that, like we said before, Cooper's a great guy. He's a great role model to Wesley. He's really taking care of the Wrens as much as he can. But really, when it comes to him and Carlotta, it seems like she's trying to force fit their love. She's trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And they're engaged now, which is ridiculous to us because the whole book 11, she was trying to convince herself, it seemed like, that she didn't love Jack. And, she's always mad at Jack for keeping secrets and whatever else. But, Cooper's a great guy, and we always run scenarios past one another about how we're going to get out of this. If she's not going to marry Cooper, how are we going to get out of it without breaking Cooper's heart or without killing him? Because people do tend to turn up dead in these books. And I hope neither one of those things happens. But at the same time, I do not want her to be with Cooper in the end. We definitely want her to be with Jack.
Yeah, I agree. Especially I know that they've obviously he's had a crush on her since day one. And she's kind of mentioned, he's attractive, and they almost had a moment early on. And they've always it's not like there's, I guess, zero chemistry or zero anything. But I've never thought that, it's never felt like she really loved him, like was in love with him, I guess. And it definitely seemed like in this last book that she kept saying, well, do I love him? Does that mean I love him? I don't know. And then he said, called her his girlfriend. And I feel like whatever she said, it made it sound like, do I want to be his girlfriend? That's weird that he called me his girlfriend. And that's why, I kind of figured eventually they would get together. They would finally sleep together. Just because I guess, But, and so I expected that, even though I didn't want it to happen. But the fact that, and through the whole book, that she was, like you said, trying to convince herself that she wasn't into Jack anymore, what she's been trying to do since the end of book 7, which we can talk about in a minute, because I'm real salty about that still. But the thing that made me mad was that she accepted his engagement like, oh, of course, when literally, as far as the timeline goes, days before, she wasn't sure she loved him, but suddenly Peter dies, and then, oh yes, life is short, I love you, let's get married. That's the part I didn't like at all, that made me so mad, and I went in and complained and tried to complain in the Facebook group about it, and my post got denied. But.
Yeah. Well, we try to offer constructive criticism as much as possible.
Sometimes I don't, and that's why I get rejected.
Right. That's why she gets rejected. And that's why I joined the fan group, because I was afraid she was going to get kicked out. Because, see, then a couple days after we finished reading the 11th book, the author posted a little mini story bonus scene to this one. And, if you weren't in the group, you wouldn't have known about it.
Mm-hmm.
So if you get kicked out of the group, you're not going to know about stuff like that.
I know, I got to stop being so, which I'm not mean, but I will argue with people. I argued with a bunch of people after this book, trying to tell them that they were wrong and I was right about about Coop and Carlotta, because they were like, oh, it's obvious, and I'm like, no, it ain't. No, it ain't. Don't even play with me like that. But I'm trying not to be, because I don't want to get kicked out of the group.
Yeah. And really, the reason we think, look, we know passion is not the be-all, end-all of a relationship. Being passionately in love does not last forever. And so just being super attracted to people, there's got to be more to a relationship than that. But And and that's what the Coop people, I feel like that's their main reason for her not being with Jack. They just think it's some mad torrid love affair that, but that anybody that's reading it ought to know better.
Yeah. And I guess we should get into talking about Jack, because he obviously has some flaws. And to me, the biggest mistakes that he's made were, well, obviously sleeping with Liz. Although, as I pointed out to someone in the Facebook group the other day, it made it out like because at the end of book 7, after Carlotta realizes she's in love with Jack, yeah, just to upset me terribly, Liz comes out and says that Jack is the father of her baby. But that Wesley, because she was sleeping with Wesley, okay, first of all, Liz is the literal worst. But she was sleeping with Wesley, by the way. This woman's like 40. Whatever.
She also slept with Randolph, Carlotta, and Wesley's dad.
Yeah. So she's upstanding. She had an affair with the married man. She's sleeping with a teenager. And, I mean, her and Jack were just like casual fling. It's kind of like, what am I looking for? Booty call type of thing. Like somebody just, whatever. There's nobody else. So call each other. But, so anyway, she told Wesley he couldn't be the dad because she was too far along. I'm almost 100% sure that's what she said. But she started sleeping with Wesley in book 2. So she would have had to have been pregnant, although, like I said in the Facebook group, it's a moot point because she wasn't pregnant at all, turns out. But she would have had to have been pregnant before book 2, which is when Carlotta and Jack started sleeping together. So it had to have been before they were ever together anyway. But it makes it sound like after he was with Carlotta that he slept with Liz to try to prove to himself that he wasn't in love with Carlotta. But, so anyway, the timing doesn't fit quite right there. But that aside, even if he did do that, even if after, I can understand, I guess, in a way why he might do that, or at least I've theorized in my head why he might do that. So that was, I think, one was sleeping with her. But the biggest thing, I think, with that, more so than that, was that he presumably in book 7 at least knew there was a possibility that he was the baby daddy. Because, he was talking about how something about how he was stressed about money and things like that. And then at the end, so after he and Carlotta kind of slept together that last time, which she thinks, oh, this seems like more, because they slept together a bunch of times. But that particular time, she said it really feels like it's more than just that. Like it means more. And you can kind of tell the way he's acting and the way, the other characters are commenting about him. The designer, he even made a comment about the way that Jack was looking at her. So you can kind of tell, obviously, that it means more to him. But the fact that he didn't mention it, that he could be the baby daddy before they slept together that time, I think that was the biggest mistake he made there, was kind of keeping that, even though he might not have known 100% yet. And then the second biggest thing, I think, was him not telling her who her real dad was, or that Randolph wasn't her real dad, because he knew that. And in a way, it wasn't, to me, which I love that character, is it wasn't necessarily his place to tell that, because it wasn't his secret. But I can understand maybe how you'd be mad after, which even, I feel like the Coop fans seem more mad about that than Carlotta actually did. Because when she found out in the book, she wasn't mad. She was like, oh yeah, I forgot you knew that. But I think too, maybe after a certain point when they knew each other better, because they didn't know each other that well at the first, that he might have told her a little bit sooner than he did. But still. So to me, I guess those seem like the worst things that he's done, even though, of course I'm defending him because I like him, but it's still not that bad because he never cheated on her. because they were never together. I mean, the whole time she was trying to sleep with Peter, like literally the whole time before he went to jail. So
Yeah, I think that the whole deal with the whole reason now that Carlotta's justifying not being with Jack is because he keeps all these secrets from her. But then she surrounds herself with other people that keep secrets from her, namely Hannah, who's her best friend, supposedly.
yeah.
But Hannah has been lying to her from the jump. I mean, she lied about her background, she lies about all kinds of stuff. She doesn't necessarily have the best history of anything. And so, you know, and I really like Hannah, don't get me wrong, okay? But I'm just saying, you can't be, to me, you have to trust deeply your best friend and your significant other. And if you can't do that, you shouldn't have those relationships with those particular people. So the things that she's faulting Jack for, she doesn't seem like that's that big of a deal. I mean, it irks her about Hannah, but not enough to say, I need to find more friends, you know, but it's enough for her to justify marrying Coop, basically, because the whole book, the whole 11th book, she's trying to convince herself that she doesn't still want to be with Jack. And Jack, too, the reason why Jack is awesome is because, I mean, first of all, he's always there for her, but he also doesn't let her get away with quite as much stuff as some of the other ones do. I mean, he still kind of, as much as he can, tries to keep her on the right side of the law, and he tries to stay on the right side of the law too, but at the same time, you know, if she calls him, like when she called him from Dallas or whatever, he flew to Dallas to help her. And he's always there when she needs him to be, to save the day, kind of. And so, to me, you know, in addition to having the most chemistry, we also know because of another series, the Coma Girl series, that Jack actually does love Carlotta. And why he can't just come out and say it is beyond me. And why he doesn't just tell her some things. Obviously he should, but, you know, I guess in the real world, it's easy to say, why don't you just tell them you love them? But in the real world, a lot of times people don't do that. People may have feelings for somebody and they're like, but they're with this other person or have this other life and I'm not good for them or I'm not good enough or whatever. I mean, people do that all the time in real life. So, you know, I guess it's pretty realistic.
Yeah, that's one thing. The one thing that's frustrated me is that he continues to do that, to not tell her where he lives. And that's, you know, the main thing. She keeps asking him over and over. And in this 11th book, I got so mad because she, you know, she went to Lake Lanier to find what's-his-face, her real dad, turns out. And we know from, if you have read Coma Girl, Jack reveals that he lives on a boat. He lives on a houseboat. And so I thought, this is where he lives, and she's going to finally find out. No. And then he shows up to save her again, and because she usually always calls him, by the way. And he still doesn't tell her. And it's so frustrating to be a Jack fan because I feel like, you know, we know, because he, you know, like we said in Coma Girl, he said that he was in love with her. And if you saw the bonus scene on Facebook, the Coma Girl actually comes to visit Jack after Carlotta and Coop get engaged and tells him, you need to tell her how you feel before it's too late. Because she said, well, you know, the guy that I'm with, he was engaged to somebody else when I was in a coma. But he you know, he didn't want to be with her. And so what I hope, because throughout the 11th book, you know, we kept getting these I feel like more signs that Carlotta was still really into Jack than we have in the last couple of books. Because obviously in book 8, she spent the whole book trying to convince herself that she was going to get over him and be with Peter. And we were all rolling our eyes because we thought, no, you're not. But then in 9 and 10, in 10, he did come to Texas. And then in this one, but I feel like there was more it's like she's trying to avoid him and and I thought, oh, so maybe there's hope. So don't get my hopes up, Stephanie. And then at the end, when they get engaged, I thought, what the heck? Why did you get my hopes up again? And then with this bonus scene, I feel the same way, as I'm worried that this kind of gives me hope that he's finally going to tell her the truth. But then I think, but what if nothing still happens? But then I thought, well, why would she do this scene if she didn't plan on anything happening? Why not just let him, I don't know. Like, I really want him to open up, but I also don't want him to open up and her be like, well, it's too late. Sorry, buddy. Because that'll just really make me mad. Then I'll be back on here even more salty than I am right now.
Yeah. So we are definitely Team Jack. We want her to be with Jack. I still think there's a chance. Mal's pretty salty right now, so she thinks there's no chance in the world and all hope is lost and we're in the pits of despair. But
I don't want to get my hopes up. I'm going to dash them. She's going to crush my dreams into dust. I've been reading this book series. I was looking it up the other day. I literally started reading this book series like 4 or 5 years ago. Or no, longer than that. Maybe 6. Because we've been reading the serial since 2016.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe since 2014 or so. Anyway, I've been reading these books for quite some time now. And I'm going to be really sad if she marries Coop because she doesn't love him.
Agreed.
You will not change my mind. I mean, she might love him as a friend, and I think that's what it is he's such a good guy. And, he would be, I mean, honestly, if you wrote it all on paper, he's the better option. But the fact is, you can't make yourself love somebody, even no matter how great they are. Even if they're the best guy in the world, if you love somebody else, you love somebody else.
And that's not fair to anybody to try to force yourself to love or pretend to love somebody that you don't.
Yeah. And I don't know, I mean, that's just how it all came off to me and other people too in the group. And I guess it's all about perspective of who you like. I've defended qualities in some characters that I come out in other characters, and I'm like, well, they're terrible because of this reason. So I can't say I'm not a hypocrite when it comes to fictional characters, but in this case, I feel like I have a pretty solid argument.
Yeah.
I will tell you my theory. You already know my theory, but for any viewers who want to know my theory, I'm going to tell you anyway, even if you don't want to know about Jack. I think, because we found out, he lives on a boat, that his boat is named Serena. And Coma Girl actually thinks, oh, well, you don't just name a boat after somebody who doesn't matter. So my thoughts are that he lost somebody that he loved. Somehow, like they died somehow. And that's kind of what made him shut down and put up walls and be afraid to open up and actually love somebody again. And I don't know if that's true. I'm hoping, regardless, we're going to find out. We better find out before this book series is over. Or I'm going to be so sad and mad.
Yeah, for sure. So we're hoping that Jack will come clean and everything will work out all hunky-dory in the end for us. We don't care about Team Coop people. Just kidding. We like you guys too. But we don't want her to be with him.
And I think that's the thing too, that right now that gets me the most is that they got engaged. If they hadn't got engaged, it'd be a different ball game right now. But the fact that they did is what really bums me out, because I think, if she dumps him, like, you've given all these Team Coop fans so much hope and then literally taken that away and broken his heart when he's a really good guy, unless he somehow turns out to be scummy, but I don't think that's going to happen. But if she, I think regardless, it's set up to be a tricky situation now, more so than it would have been if they were still just dating, which is what they should have been doing, because they ain't even been dating that long, by the way.
Yeah.
You can say love, but guess what? I don't think that she's really all that in love with him, because 5 minutes ago she was like, maybe do I still love Jack? I don't know.
Yeah, and too, it's hard because there's another character that's a reporter named Rainey, and she used to really like Coop. And also Hannah used to have a major crush on Coop, but Rainey actually in this past book said, plain out told Carlotta, if you don't know, you need to just call it a day with Coop because you're going to break his heart because, when we said earlier, nobody follows anybody around like a lost puppy or all doe-eyed and stuff. That's not necessarily true where Coop is concerned because he does kind of follow Carlotta around like a lost puppy.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do feel like she is at this point, obviously it'd probably break his heart for sure if she were to say, forget it. I really do love Jack. And like I said, the whole scenario is just not fair to Cooper, really.
Yeah, so that's what really bummed me out about this last book. It made me get so salty in the Facebook group.
But otherwise.
Yeah. I will say one thing is, nowadays it's kind of, but like originally, I really kind of hoped, as I was kind of almost rooting for Hannah and Coop for a while, because I thought, well, she really is into him, and she's so different than he is, that I kind of thought it would be really cool if they ended up falling for each other. But now, and see, that's what you were talking about, Hannah. See, Hannah gets on my nerves for being so judgy about Jack because she's kind of just like him. She does the same things. It's not like she has very questionable morals. She's married to a drug dealer. But anyway, now that she's married and having a baby, I figure that ship has long sailed off. But I was really kind of rooting for them for a while. And there actually is a book that exists. I haven't read it, but it's a fan fiction book that you can buy on Amazon where Coop moved, or he went to Florida or somewhere for some reason, and found Maria, who had faked her death. And they ended up falling in love. That was going to be the premise of the story. Which, whatever. But that would have been cool, too.
Yeah. But it's still, overall, it's a good series. And you should definitely read it. And then you can get salty in our comments if you're Team Coop, or you can let us know if you're Team Jack and be on our side. But you should definitely check out the series. You can get it on Amazon for your Kindle, or you can also order the books from Amazon, or probably other places too. But we mostly order ours from Amazon to read on the Kindle. And then 2, check out all of the girl series. There's Coma Girl, Temp Girl, Comeback Girl, and Factory Girl. And there's also a little novella that's like 9.5 or 8.5 or what?
6.5.
6.5.
Okay. Sorry, I know we're running long here, but one more comment I have about this. And this is me being a child, but in 6.5 is a fantasy where Carlotta's parents never left. So what would life have been like? And in that life, she ended up with Peter. So look, she had the least chemistry with Peter. She gets to end up with him in one book. She has the middlest chemistry with Coop. She might, if she gets to end up with him and she don't ever end up with Jack, that just ain't fair. I'll put my little 12-year-old girl pants on and say that is not fair.
Oh my God.
Yes, there was a novella, and also there's a prequel called Party Crashers to the series, which I have not read, but I've been meaning to, and I keep forgetting.
Yeah, I haven't read it either. But still, check them out. Go check them out. Let us know how you feel about them. Give us some comments below about how you feel about the series, or about how you feel about us as hosts of Books on the Rocks.
Yeah. Raise your cocktails. Oh, it's stupid.
Raise your glasses for coffee.
Yeah, we'll raise our glass up to the Body Movers books that we really love. And I guess, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be so mad at them if I didn't really love them and I wasn't super invested in them and all the characters. So good job, Stephanie Bond, for making me so mad. But also please let Carlotta end up with Jack. Thank you very much.
Cheers. Yes. Cheers. Sayonara.
Goodbye, folks. How do I stop it? Okay.